Greetings, YouTube and other various internet-going people. I'm Laurie Cousins, and I'm here to give you a brief rundown on our Curse of Strahd group that Robert James Fremantle is running a campaign for. Link for that and various other things will be in the description below for non-PHB or other official book content for player characters. So, if you've been keeping up with the vidcast Rob's putting out, then you will know exactly what's going on with our group. That's what I get for cooking in the middle of the video. But I'm not going to be going on about those particular things. What I'm here to do is I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of our characters in alphabetical order, and what specializations they've picked now that we're all at a level that we can actually take specializations for. Now, starting with myself, playing Artemis Vale, Aasimar Paladin of Sune Firehair, Forgotten Realms goddess of beauty and love and all that stuff. Artemis originally originated in for a Pathfinder campaign that I was going to run, where she, well, not run, I was going to play in, where she worshipped Shelyn, which it's the Galarian equivalent, so it's just what I transferred her across as. Now, I was having words with Rob about what I was doing, and I spent some time trying to my best to find something that wasn't inherently broken but could still work, because I didn't really think any of the PHB or Xanathar's ones, or even the Oath of the Crown, really, fit her. So I ended up finding something called the Heartwarden, or Heartwarden, Oath of the Heartwarden, I guess is what it really should be called, on D&D Beyond. So I'm running with that now, which, for those of you who know what Curse of Strahd's all about, Rob had a good old-fashioned laugh at this, so, you know. He really, really, really wants to see how... That's that done. Get back to that in a minute. How quite... He basically wants to see how much he can push this and see how much he can really mess with everyone, really. So I'm just perfect for being messed with. So yeah, third level, Oath of the Heartwarden, Aasimar Paladin. Did anyone really see anything different for me with Paladins anyway? Our next character, who had a lot of bad shit going on for them. It's pretty much guaranteed that they're kind of broken now. We have Blitz von Spellheim. Now, aside from the stuff that Rob's had to do to him due to massive amounts of corruption and just having to have died. I mean, I died too, so... But there are different things going on with me. And definitely different things going on with Blitz. Blitz is a sorcerer, and he originally started off with being one of the few classes in the game that pick their specialization from first level. Blitz chose Storm Sorcery from... Well, I think it's in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, but also in Xanathar's. So, there we go. Now, aside from the obvious corruption shit that's going on with him, I don't even know the full extent of that beyond what Rob's given us to work with at the table, as it were. Blitz is probably going to be one of the ones that goes out pretty quickly at this rate, I feel. And that's... And when I say go out, I mean... I don't think Rob's going to destroy the character, but he might end up being one of those ones that you kind of wish you died before you see yourself become the villain. Although with Strahd, that's almost a guarantee. Next up on this listing, we have Darius. I forget the last name, if there was a last name for him. But Darius, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Blitz is a high elf as well, so there's that. Darius is human, and he is our bard. I believe Chris has taken Law Bard with him, College of Law. I need to double check that, but I think it's College of Law, because that makes the most sense for what he was trying to go with. Because I don't think he felt like any of the others fit him, and the only two that are in the PHB that he could have chosen from, because that's where he was getting all his information from, was Law and I think it's Valor. That's in the PHB, because Swords, aka College of Blades, is in Xanathar's, so it has to probably most likely be Law. I don't think he's going for any sort of like combat build. At least weapon-based combat building, at least anyway. So yeah, Chris is playing Darius, who is a human bard, College of Law. Now we have, and I have to get this one, I have to be very particular about this. The player even says this. We have Fizzle Chug the Second. You have to say the full name. He gets very upset if you don't say the full name. So, Fizzle Chug the Second is a halfling rogue, and as of recently, having hit 3rd level, has taken Arcane Trickster. So, you know, Arcane Tricksters. It's actually a pretty decent subclass. I think all the rogue subclasses are actually fairly decent in general. So there's that. Key little point about Fizzle Chug that I will mention is that he started off having, he started off having, the player decided that Fizzle Chug the Second would have a floor outside of the background floors, obviously, where he's deaf in one ear, so the player rolls a d6. If he rolls 4 or above, he hears it. If he rolls a 6, he most definitely hears everything. So it's like, every time we get into a situation, it's like, I roll the dice. Do I hear it? No, I don't. I'm ignoring it. Or something similar to that effect. This later turned into getting an eye patch. That was just fancy eye patch. And he's like, and now I'm rolling to see if I can see everything. And now, due to one of the corruption things, where it's like, I just randomly spouted out, like, due to the fact that he's going through all the senses so far, it's like, oh, why don't you go with licking things? You have to taste it. That was just a joke, and it stuck, but yeah, no, it happens. Let's see. Yeah. That's Fizzle Chug the Second. So, the next character up is Indolwyn. Now, Indolwyn is a Wood Elf fighter, and Rob's mentioned that she's gone Arcane Archer. Now, Arcane Archers in this edition, just like the Eldritch Knight, are no longer a prestige class, so same goes with the Arcane Trickster, actually. So, several of what used to be prestige classes have now become subclasses for stuff like the fighter, the rogue, so on and so forth. I mean, there's probably several more in there. I mean, like we got the Arcane Archer and the Eldritch Knight, for example, and the Arcane Trickster. I'm kind of wanting to see a Shadow Dancer. That's one that I would really like to see. I kind of think that's somewhat on the Way of Shadows monk-ish. Obviously, we got the Assassin too. But so Indolwyn is playing an Arcane Archer, and she's picked currently, I think, the Beguiling Shadows one, or the Shadow Arrow, which does shadow damage, and they have to do a wisdom saving throw or be blinded and for X amount of time. I think it's like a round or something. But generally speaking, it's a case of like, yeah, this is, you could attribute to that particular arrow is being infused by the fact we're in the Shadowfell or the Demi-Plane of Dread within the Shadowfell. One way or the other, it's just out there, yeah. Next up, we have Pete's character, Jakar. Now, Jakar is a half-orc barbarian and is going Totem Warrior. Now, as much as most people will be like, oh, he's going Totem Warrior, obviously he's picking Bear. No, actually, he's not picking Bear. He's not picking Bear at all. Instead, what we're focusing on here is the fact that Pete has a lot of wolf paraphernalia that he wears on him. He has like a wolf ring, has like wolf jack pendant or something like that. I think he's even got some shirts that have wolf imagery on them. So there's that. So Pete is going with a wolf motif that he goes in real life, but he's also carrying that across into Jakar. So Jakar has going to be picking the wolf aspects at all the level ups, including there's also a background thing that, well, backstory I should say, rather than background, that he's talked about with Rob. That also further implements the whole wolf aesthetic. So I don't quite exactly know, but it's in there. After that, we have Percy Vale. Originally going to be called Percival, and this is Craig's character, and she is a halfling artificer, and she's gone down the alchemical route. So, you know, the alchemical bag where you throw the flasks out, and I think that's increased, or that's the whole shtick, rather than the thunder cannon. Yeah, so those abilities, as far as we're aware, those are all cantrip-esque, so they level up when you get to 5th level, so on and so forth. They just increase in general, in terms of damage output and possibly healing? I think the healing one would also have to go up. I don't remember exactly, but it's in there somewhere. Now, Percy is having a few issues herself, and also was another person that died, so at the end of Death House. So that has been established that death is going to be a big thing we do not want to be happening too often, but will probably likely happen if we're not fucking careful. And considering how some of the sessions have gone so far, I'm getting a feeling we're in for some real shit if we continue with the way we're acting. Okay. Next up, we have Rickard of Southwold. Now, Rickard is a human ranger, and played by Jez. Now, Jez wanted something that was a monster hunter, and Rickard also doesn't like wolves, primarily. He doesn't like anything that's lupine or canine-like whatsoever. So, him and Jakar are perfect grouping right there. Yeah, but Rickard has taken the monster hunter from the Xanathar's Guide. So that's a nice little thing, because that makes the most sense for what his character was going. It was either that or Blood Hunter, but that's where we go on to what will be the next character when we talk about him. So Rickard is just the monster slayer from the Xanathar's Guide. Ranger, obviously. Kind of surprised Jez did go with Beastmaster. I know Beastmaster isn't particularly great, but considering what he likes to have his pets and cats and dinosaurs for him, I was kind of surprised that he didn't go for Beastmaster and wanted to get a cat. Although at the table when we was talking about the third little thing, he mentioned if he was to do it, he'd get a dinosaur. Not entirely sure where you get a dinosaur in Barovia, but whatever, that's just my opinion. The next character up, actually, that we should be talking about, is another monster hunter, Quarian. Quarian Galanadel, I believe his name it is, or something similar to that, I think it was. At least, I think it was that, anyway. This is a a full elf, high elf. I don't know why I was about to say half elf. This is a high elf, blood hunter, Order of the Profane Soul. I can't remember which pact element he was going with. It was going to be either Celestial or Undying, because his patron is going to be his patron aspect, at least anyway, was going to have something to do with the Raven Queen. And Yeah, I'm not entirely sure which one he's picked as of just yet. Because he was a bit choosing between both of those, and they're both very decent in my opinion. It's just that I think that if he's going with the Raven Queen, Celestial would be the most obvious choice. But, you know, the most obvious choice isn't always the correct one. It's all down, because the player might have his own opinion upon what the Raven Queen represents, especially to that character. So, yeah, there's that. Now, up until this point, every single one of these characters, apart from mine, just due to the sheer fact I'm fucking lucky with my dice rolling, have either got access to several points of corruption, whether it's because we've slept in a place that's got corruption in it, has done something that has caused a spike in corruption, or something else along those lines, and has gained points of insanity. In some people's cases, a couple of these have become permanent, where in others they're just on the tail end of a couple of days of temporary, but still they're in effect. And corruption is a point I'm going to make right here that we cannot deal with. At least in the sense of, like, apart from resting in an area that doesn't have corruption, because Rob's using the rules provided by Matt Mercer's corruption table, I believe. So, yeah, we have several people with high corruption. Well, we have at least one person in high corruption, maybe a couple that have hit moderate, and the majority of the rest of the group that have got corruption are in minor. So, take from that what you will, and we're only 5 sessions in. Yeah, despite the fact that Strahd's trying to set us on each other, as he does because he's a manipulator, I think the group's kind of fucked, just from the sheer fact there's so many people with massive levels of corruption above 3 already. So, oh dear. I mean, if this keeps up, and we can't find a place to rest to reduce corruption because we are sleeping in an area with no corruption, the only way to get rid of corruption, aside from that, would be greater restoration. And unfortunately, we have no cleric in the party to cast even lesser restoration, which would be a 5th level. I don't get access to lesser restoration as a paladin until I think 8th, because it's a 3rd level spell. And greater obviously doesn't kick in until 17th, so yeah, this is just access to it. And also Revivify. Yeah, we're kind of boned on the case of Resurrection. If anyone dies, obviously it's going to be eventually Dark Pacts, which could just involve getting more corruption from that in general. So, yeah, that's the minor points of what I've seen so far, and what the characters are currently at when it comes to their specialization subclass choice. So, until the next time, I shall see you all later. Ta-ta!